The pack is back with another episode of the Property Management Roundtable. On today's episode, we talk social media again. We talk about how we leverage different forms of social media, what social media we use, kind of our social media strategy. This is what I would call the leadership episode. You're going to hear a lot about leadership styles. We're going to talk a lot about one-to-ones, giving feedback to people, getting feedback from our teams, when to fire people. It's a lot about leadership. That's the majority of this episode. And then, of course, books we're reading. So welcome to episode 8 of the Property Management Roundtable. All right, everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Wolfpack Podcast, the Property Management Roundtable. I have the pack here minus one. Vince could not join us today, as you can tell, so we're actually filling up the screen today. What's up, guys?
Hello, Matthew.
Howdy.
Nice. I worked a little bit, I think, since last podcast on my backdrop here, so I'm getting some feedback from you guys, and I'm actually trying to upgrade. I reached out to Duke's vendor, who was unavailable. I don't know if we want to say why he was unavailable, but he was unavailable, but now he's back, and there is a good chance that I'll have something cool behind me like Duke and Tim do.
You talking about Mr. Art here?
Yeah.
Lee Valentine.
Yeah, I've got some ideas for some art. It's definitely not going to be as cool as you guys, but it's going to be.
Yeah, you don't have to share the people, but can you share with the concept, like why you're going to get the paintings that you're going to get?
Yeah, so I was actually kind of reflecting the other day, and I was thinking there's this concept that Gary Keller, who started Keller Williams, had, and he calls them prophets. And he basically says, who do you follow in certain areas of your life? And I was thinking, if somebody came down from another planet and followed me around, who would they consider my prophets? And so I was just writing down the people that I listen to the most. And some of those are like Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, Tim Ferriss, my pastor at church.
Are you getting one of these done of your pastor?
Gary Keller. Well, I was thinking about narrowing it down to about 4 or 5 people, and then creating almost like the Mount Rushmore of prophets for me.
Yeah, I like that idea because you'll see them every day, and like you'll feel like they're watching you, and like you your potential every freaking day. That's what I like about it.
Matthew, are you hustling today? Are you thinking objectively? The Ray Dalio. I figured I wouldn't have Warren Buffett and his partner Charlie Munger on there because they kind of solve the same problem. But
Charlie's kind of ugly. I would just go Buffett on that.
I don't know. I was kind of thinking about going Charlie because Warren's kind of predictable. Like everybody would know who Warren is, but if you go with Charlie, he's kind of the silent. Yeah, he's kind of the silent killer in that relationship.
Yeah.
Duke, why'd you pick Jay-Z?
Similar reason. Honestly, like this room is all hip hop themed, but if I was thinking about doing that room, like kind of what Matthew was thinking, like your business hero theme. Jay-Z is the only guy that will cross both worlds, hip hop and business hero. But like mine would be like we talked about this. Or mine would be like Warren Buffett, Mark Cuban, some other folks. It'd be cool to have them staring at you every day. I like that idea.
So I just sent this to you guys, but I was running yesterday and still didn't get my strain up as high as Duke, by the way, when I was running. But I still ran like 9 or 10 miles. Still didn't get as high as Duke. But I sent you guys a podcast.
From his couch to the kitchen.
I cannot wait for Chicago if we're gonna hang out in Chicago and y'all see how hard I go on a normal day. And
we're definitely all taking our shirts off, and somebody is taking a picture of all of us to see who's in the most shape, and then we're gonna post it somewhere, probably Facebook, and we're gonna get people to vote on who's in the best shape because Duke can
strain here. So like I may strain harder than y'all and then go eat worse than y'all. And so the net result isn't as good, but the strain is there, man. I go hard.
You made me forget what I was even saying. Oh yeah.
My favorite. So people won't get this, but my favorite was when Duke hit balls at the driving range and accomplished like a 17 string. I mean,
you ran a marathon and barely eked him out that day.
The difference is like some people like go out and shoot hoops in the driveway. Michael Jordan practiced like intention, and I practice with intention. Like when I'm there, I'm working.
He is the Kobe Bryant at the driving range. Like it is all intensity.
If he's not out there at midnight, something's wrong. Hurricanes blowing through there, something.
I've seen Duke hit balls plenty of times. There's not much going on there.
Mike explained it like I think it's the mental pressure I put on myself when hitting golf balls. Like I stress myself out so much that my heart must just like churn when I play golf.
It's true. It's got to be.
We think there's.
All right, we're checking all the podcast boxes. We've talked about Duke's strain.
Got it. Oh, but I go back to the podcast that I sent to y'all. Jamie Foxx has a great Jay-Z story in his podcast with Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss reposted it from 3 or 4 years ago, and it is an incredible 2.5 hour podcast. And Jamie Foxx is hilarious. I mean, that guy is uber talented. I'm not a huge like Jamie Foxx follower, but all the things that he's done professionally is amazing. And just one of the things that excited me about it is like his passion to get it right, like to execute really well and focus. And it's just a really awesome podcast. So you guys absolutely need to listen to it.
Yeah.
And he tells a funny story about Jay-Z sitting in the corner at one of his parties.
You're going to have to put that in like the comments in the podcast there that you mentioned it.
We'll definitely do that.
I'm going to listen to it on the way home today.
It better be a 2.5 hour drive or you're not going to get all of it.
So, just like his strain score, Duke absorbs things so quickly.
Well, maybe that's part of it. Maybe he can do that 3x too, just like his golfing.
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
So first question to lob out there. What is acceptable from a social media standpoint from the leader of an organization, for the leader of a business? Are y'all intentional with your social media posting, or is it just personal? Is it random? Who do you let into your social media circle? Do you have different circles for different social media outlets? I'm curious, like your social media strategy. Start us off, Mikey.
Sure. Pretty sure I'm the one who brought this up. Oh.
Are you mad because I asked the question and you brought it up?
No. My stuff just went like blank. I don't know. My light went off. I went dark. No, I'm not mad. I'm really interested to hear all of your answers here. So I won't take too much time. I pretty much use LinkedIn for most of my business, type dealings on social media. I think LinkedIn's a great platform and kind of been underutilized over the past, few years, definitely by me up until more recently. And then I would say Facebook, I pretty much use it for personal purposes. I don't use it for much business. No, my team posts a lot of great content and I like seeing it and I like liking it and commenting on it. But for the most part from me, unless I'm trying to push out like some type of event or some type of kind of article or something like that to my friends and family that I want them to see that's going on in our business, I pretty much just use Facebook kind of as a personal outlet. It obviously bleeds together. A lot of what I do in my life is business, and we kind of live our life while building the business, so it kind of melds together. But I don't put a lot of strategy into it, which is something that I should probably change from a business aspect with my Facebook presence.
And those are the only two that
I barely even touch Instagram. I love seeing your stuff. I love seeing Timmy with his death-defying flights and tiny little airplanes. And I love catching up and seeing everybody's updates. But for the most part, I don't spend much time or effort on it, unfortunately.
Do you actually get a ton out of LinkedIn? Like, I mean, other than likes, obviously, because everybody likes all your stuff. But I don't
know. I mean, I think I'm losing connection here. It keeps going in and out. If I drop off, I'll try to be back on. Do I get much out of it? I get a lot of spam. There's no doubt about that. Like literally all the salespeople come out of the woodwork and they're sending me messages. But in between there, I do get a lot of good interaction. It's definitely connected me more to the business community, specifically in Orlando. And it's been beneficial from a business standpoint in terms of kind of solidifying new relationships and legitimizing me and our company when talking to potential clients. They look at LinkedIn and your presence on there, and if you're handling yourself professionally, I think it's a positive. It's almost like your ongoing resume to me when people are checking you out. I don't send them my Facebook profile and say, hey, check out what I did last week playing golf or drinking beer or whatever it is. So,
Tim, what about your Facebook strategy?
My Facebook strategy, I think I've said this before on this, is that I use Facebook mostly for keeping up with my family and then figuring out who on Facebook or in the world is stupid, and then I follow them and try to do the opposite of what they do, have opposite opinions of them.
White Shroot strategy.
Which, going back to Charlie Munger, that's a very Charlie Munger thing to do.
I mean, it really does.
Ways not to die.
Yeah, try not to die.
Ways not to lose money.
I've certainly gotten into some comments and typed them and then deleted them before, but for that, Facebook's very.
I can see you doing that. I can see you.
A million times. I've written you about 200 emails that I haven't sent, Duke. So once you fire me.
Sometimes you comment on ones I'm not supposed to be on, then you run over and tell me not to read it. You've done that before too.
Did I?
I think Duke just posts those. I think he types things probably like, I probably shouldn't post this, but I'm going to.
But no, I mean, so I don't do a lot of Facebook. I mean, I think, you guys see I do a lot of Instagram. But I'm pretty intentional about it to a certain extent. I mean, over the years, you've had some peers in the industry and stuff follow me. And so I don't know if you guys followed my Instagram story on Saturday, but started to get a little bit rowdy. And so I cut it off, right? I lost my phone. But yeah, I don't post a ton, but I think it's important to be authentic. I love J. Cole, right? Duke got me this J. Cole thing. And I just love how authentic and like real he is all the time. And so that's kind of my reminder, is just sometimes it's okay to be yourself. I watched a funny Gary Vee video this morning where he's like, do you know how many people hate me because I say the F word all the time? He's like, but it's me. He said, I was getting this offer for $500,000 up front to do this talk or set of talks. And they said, but you can't curse. And he said, fuck you. So that's kind of my thought. If you're going to do it, you might as well be real. I don't know that you need to have a persona. I think a lot of times people put a shtick out there, and if it doesn't, generally people can sniff that stuff out, right? You can sniff out when somebody's being a fake piece of shit on social media, and there are plenty of them out there. I don't know. That doesn't necessarily answer your original question of what's appropriate, but
no, I like it.
I think
appropriate is transparency. Hey, this is who I am. Like me for who I am. It certainly makes people either really like you or really not like you, and that's good.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully I'm not that. You're not that polarizing. Polarizing, yeah, just from flying.
You want us to answer that, Tim? If you are polar, or are you just saying you're not?
Do you think I'm polarizing? Do you think I'm polarizing?
No, Timmy. I love you. Just kidding.
Dude, don't start a fight.
If I was polarizing, I don't think that'd start a fight. It would be great feedback.
Feedback is a gift.
Feedback is a gift. I don't know.
Duke, you're up. Tell us about your social media.
So on the LinkedIn side, I will accept friendships from almost anyone who's connected to real estate, Richmond business, any kind of market we're in business, anybody who might be a potential employee, because I think that's a great tool to blast like to the masses, but it's like the masses that might be connected to your business somehow. So like if we, acquire a company or we have a new development project or whatever, that's where I'll share it. Maybe if we have a new job offering, like a job, we're posting, I think that's a great place to blast it. But I don't do it often. Like I don't spam people. I'll try to, I'll probably post one thing a month, maybe share one thing a month, something like that. But I do accept a lot of friendships on there or whatever connections, I guess, because I want the ability to spam the masses there when it's interesting or appropriate. Facebook for me is more personal. I am connected to a lot of employees and a lot of like NARPM folks. And so, it creeps into the business world, but I don't post a lot there. I do follow a lot. I get on all those platforms at least probably once a day and just see what's happening. But I try to be conscious not to spam people and not be too self-indulgent, because like that's what bothers me when people are real self-indulgent on Facebook. Like the look at me stuff gets my nerves, but there's times where you want people to look at your business for certain reasons. And so I try to balance the two. I want it to feel like if I'm sharing something, it's because I thought that was interesting and it's not just like 3 times a day stuff. So that's probably, Instagram I follow. I don't really post on there much. I think TikTok, might be the stupidest thing that's ever happened.
I
But
love TikTok.
but
Love
it's
me some TikTok.
but it's important, right? Because if a lot of people are doing it, you need to understand why. So I downloaded it, and I'm trying to understand what the hell's going on. I'm probably, I'm 40 now, so I'm probably way too old. But the thing is, like, just like Snapchat, like, just because I don't do it doesn't mean I need to know what's going on. I need to understand why. I feel it's important to understand, why humans are doing what they're doing, because a new generation of humans comes along every day, and you need to be aware of it.
I did get into a Twitter battle with Chris Fowler one time, the ESPN broadcast.
You did?
I did, yeah.
Wow.
Did you win the battle?
Obviously, yeah.
He admitted defeat, I'm sure, right?
Well, obviously, it was one of those things like you don't think Chris Fowler is going to tweet back at you, but he did remember he used to be the host of College Game Day.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget where they were, but he had like this little kid, and he said something about Oregon hasn't beaten Oregon State or vice versa probably since you were back pooping in your diapers. And I was like, ooh, that's cringe. It was like super cringy. And I just thought like, oh, funny, I'll say that was super cringeworthy. And he like tweeted back. He's like, that was the best segment I've ever done. It was pretty funny. I was like, no. Again, feedback is a gift, right, Chris? Chris, if you're listening, feedback is a gift.
We'll tag him on this show. Maybe he'll get to whatever minute we're at.
But it was pretty cringeworthy. But no, I don't think I won. I think he ruined my day, actually, to be honest with you. But I think it's funny. None of us mentioned Twitter. And I think we all use things a little bit differently, right? Like I use Facebook, to Duke's point. Like I'm kind of strategic about, my employee posted something or somebody who works for us posted something. I got to like that, or I got to show that I'm engaged with these people. Like there's a strategy there as well. And then none of us mentioned Twitter.
I have a really good buddy who I think a lot of, and he uses Twitter for research and to get like up to the minute information from people that are believable, right? I mean, not the masses or the media, but he follows certain people that he thinks are experts in certain areas, and he uses Twitter to basically verify his thinking. So
I'm on Twitter at least twice a day, and that's Twitter gets a little bit of a bad rap. If you don't get deep into the comments on Twitter, it's actually a really great platform for just that. Like somebody will cite an article, they'll give you some research on something. They'll back when, what was the Boston Marathon thing?
Yeah, you can triangulate information.
I was on Twitter, not watching TV, and I was up to date on that.
It's kind of like the protests, right, Tim? Like the protests. Yeah. That's where I was following it. Reddit to some extent. But
Reddit to a certain extent.
Twitter, because you can figure out are my buildings getting damaged? Just like literally, block by block kind of updates. It's crazy. Yeah.
So one of the things I think is interesting, though, is that the property management community uses Facebook. It seems like that's kind of the lead for the social media and property management, but everybody here seems to use Facebook more for personal reasons. So it's kind of interesting that we use LinkedIn, but I don't think LinkedIn's been necessarily adopted by the whole property management community yet. Yeah. And it feels like it leans more towards, I will tell you, 10 to 1, I get more property manager invites on Facebook than I do in LinkedIn. And LinkedIn, yes, is becoming very spammy. I've gotten a bunch of salespeople and a bunch of out of the country people that can help me with my social media. And that just feels a little weird, but so I'm starting to I used to allow all those people into my network. Now I'm starting to thin them out and just, it's not even worth accepting them if they're just going to sell. So do you not accept them, Duke?
Again, I would, if it's an out of the country web developer, out of the country who has VAs and wants to, user, I don't do it. But if it's, again, someone connected in my market or someone in the property management real estate, because there's times where we will have a project which we're raising money, a development project, and we'll post the project on social media. The laws have changed now where you can kind of post it publicly. There's certain guidelines, but like that, we might throw that out to the whole network and maybe 5 people might call me back from it. So I think it's for that and for those weird one-off job descriptions. Like when we have I won't post a property management job on there, but if we're trying to get a controller or a head of HR or one of those kind of once in a year, once every 5-year posts, I'll do that there because it does get to a large network of people.
Yeah, we've had a lot of success with LinkedIn. We actually have a LinkedIn recruiter account, and at all times have 3 to 5 jobs posted on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. So we've had a lot of success finding people there.
Would you guys ever, anywhere post anything super political? Like, let's say, for example, a couple of you on the screen were extremely upset about the hypocrisy of Mitch McConnell whenever Trump nominates a Supreme Court justice. Let's say you were upset about the hypocrisy when Mitch McConnell has a vote on it in an election year. Would you ever post that on social media?
I personally would
I
not.
don't get into politics on social media.
I don't think it's helpful.
My parents.
Yeah,
I don't, because even if I'm in my heart of hearts think I'm right or know I'm right, I'm still going to offend 40% of the population probably. And I just like, I think the whole Black Lives Matter stuff in the protest brought about the question to people like us who run businesses: should we be more vocal on certain topics? But like trying to decide if it's political or if it's just like a social thing. I mean, it's a slippery slope. So maybe I'll comment more these days on the social side, but if it's just straight politics, no.
Yeah, I actually texted my dad last night. He's a Notre Dame grad. And I said, hey, one of the ladies that Trump is considering nominating is somebody that went to Notre Dame's law school and has taught at Notre Dame for 15 years or something like that. This is the judge. And my dad, who he and I are opposite in terms of our political stances, says, yeah, but I still think that, instead of saying, yeah, that's pretty cool. So if that's so polarizing, even among son and dad, then people that don't even know me, it's not worth giving them some sort of leg to stand on. And so I don't think it's worth us making a comment on just completely straight up political things.
Would you ever like something that somebody posted that was political? I'm
careful too.
You need to be very careful too. Yeah.
To me, it's gotta be a no-brainer. Like, if I love people, like I like that, right?
Well, the thing is, maybe one post says they love people, but then 2 or 3 posts later that you don't like because you liked this person's post, they may say something that's just completely radical and out in left field, and all of a sudden you've liked a post from them, and so they're making this wholesale connection. And it's not about whether the story's right or not. It's about whether, it's not that you just like that post. It's like you liked a post from that person. I'm really close to a person that just got completely crucified in the media for this, who I think a lot of, and he had liked a post, in the past that was a conservative post from a kind of conservative talking head. And it just, the blowback in the Birmingham community was unbelievable. And it was just liking a post. And it was never something that he said, but it was just liking a post. And I'm not saying that he should have been wiser and not done that. And I'm not saying that was right or wrong to have the blowback. But what I am saying is you've got to be really careful about what you like or dislike these days.
Yeah.
So I think, Timmy, I think it's important to have an opinion. Like, I think it's okay for you to have an opinion, but I think when you have people on your team that are on both sides of the coin, I personally, I grew up watching my wife work for a very conservative business owner, and like he said, like, if you don't vote a certain way, my doors are going to be closed, and our business is going to go out of business, and I'll be sitting on a beach somewhere. Right. And to me, it was like strong arming employees. And we always try to create a culture.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually against the law, isn't it? Like,
well, he didn't tell him I was going to fire him. And then
okay.
Subsequently lost the politician, put him out of business.
We didn't follow through on any of those threats. But like, my point is, we try to create a culture here at Atrium that is a fun place to come to work. If you're constantly telling people how they should think politically, it's not going to create that. You're going to create division amongst your team. So I think it's important for you to have your own voice. But, if somebody comes to me and asks me specifically what my opinion is, I'll give them my opinion. But I'm not going to force my opinion on them because I have a little stage to talk from, right? And I feel the same way on social media. People don't want to hear about my opinion on politics. They already have their own opinion, and they see it from everybody else.
And you're not a political expert. I mean, that's the other thing is, hey, I don't know. I may not know enough to make a comment on this. And so some people need to know when not to make a comment. I think the other thing that's important to point out here is that 80 or 90, we agree 80 or 90%. Like, everybody's sitting here getting mad over the 10% we don't agree on, and we can't even, like, we ought to all be rowing in the same direction on the 80 or 90% that people do agree on. I mean, we all agree that that people are important, and there's all for me, it's just kind of, it's just it's created division over, all the people on my staff or on my team are very important to me, and I don't want to be arguing over the 10% that maybe we don't agree on, when we agree on 80 to 90% of everything.
Good point.
Yeah.
I generally don't do that. I just was thinking about your original question and saying, like, we all kind of gave our personal social media strategies, but we didn't talk about the kind of.
Well, you type. Those are the ones you type out and then you hit delete before you send. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I generally don't. I'm probably the most political amongst us, and I don't post anything political on there.
Well, what's the win? Has anybody ever changed somebody's mind by posting something political on social media?
Never.
No. All people do is agree with whatever they already agree with and disagree with whatever they already disagree with, and it may make it worse.
That may be true. I would say my views over time, and my mind's never been changed in one article or whatever, but I read some crazies on both sides, and over time my views have shifted just a little in certain directions. So there's probably a place for it in the world. I just don't think we have to do it.
Well, because I also think Mike said something interesting. He said people don't want to see that on their social media. Yes, they do. That stuff is the most commented on, most liked, most engaged with social media posts there are. So they may say they don't want you to post it, but they want to be just keyboard warriors at you there as soon as you post something, man. They're all waiting for you.
People are not specifically asking for my political opinion.
I know what you meant. It's an interesting topic, especially in today's world. I mean, there's more and more social media outlets. There's more and more people being. Are we allowed to curse on this?
Yes.
Okay.
You've cursed like 17 times.
I know.
All I could think of, Matthew, was my conversation when you were driving me to the airport. Like, I had a.
Do you want to tell everybody that?
I think I might have already talked about it on this podcast, but I had went and visited Matthew's organization for a while. And first of all, two things that were mentioned in this podcast that really made an impact on me. First of all, one of Matthew's leaders during their 25K leadership team meeting was very open about things that were going on in his personal life. And Tim, you said it earlier today, it's so important to be authentic. And this really opened my eyes to the importance of authenticity when you're talking to your team, because this guy was almost in tears talking about his personal life to the rest of the leadership team. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, I need to work on just being open and honest and authentic, because I can tend to have just positivity walls up. Sometimes you need to let it all show. So I learned that. And then Matthew and I were driving to the airport, and I asked him, I was like, what do you think about me cussing all the time? I was like, should I try to cut that out? Because I say fuck a lot. And he was like, and I was expecting Matthew, because he's so well put together and he almost never cusses and he's so professional. I was expecting him to be like, you might want to cut that out. You might want to think about it like your mom's watching this shit. No, he's like, no, it's you. You should just be you and be authentic. And I was like, man, that's pretty cool. So I went home and told my wife, Matthew gave me permission to cuss, and it was going to be okay.
Well, around the time that Ben Horowitz book came out, right? And Ben Horowitz addresses that topic specifically. And they had a discussion about it at their company. And like, look, at this company, we will, if you want to curse. If you don't say anything that's going to purposely offend someone, but just be yourself. And that's just part of the business. We're all adults here. And so I feel like that's the way the world's trending. And to Tim's point about being authentic, and to your point, it's just be you, and don't seek out don't seek out people to offend, but just be you. We do that at our company all the time. We don't try to curse the staff meetings. If it happens, it happens.
Yeah, it's not scripted.
The book $1 Trillion Coach actually brings that Ben Horowitz thing up, and the coach says, well, that's a good one for me, because apparently he used the F word a lot, and when he was making points to Steve Jobs and the guys at Google. The other thing that this brings to mind is Craig Rochelle, who has a leadership podcast, said that people want to follow leaders that are real, not leaders that know all the answers or know all the right information. Yeah. So that speaks to that too. Authentic.
That's a good point. And like when COVID started and all the protests started, I think at our company, we got a lot of positive feedback from our staff because we asked questions. We didn't just dictate and blurt out things. We asked questions. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about this? Do you feel comfortable in this situation? Do you not? Like, give us feedback. And I think to your point, yeah, you don't have to know all the answers, but caring enough to try to get to the answer is important.
I sat back and watched, well, maybe I shouldn't. Where my wife works, there was the CEO came out like the next day after we had our first town hall. My wife works at a very large place that's corporately headquartered in Richmond, and it was so scripted and like bland, and it was making me uncomfortable. I was like, I really want to see what this person has to say, because the person runs a 50,000 person organization, I think more actually now, and it was so scripted, and they like down to he got kind of emotional at one point, and it seemed like that was somebody told him, this is the point at which you kind of get choked up. Right.
Do it
like,
now.
Cue the deer, right? Like, it was so bad. And I think that, we've all talked about it ad nauseum at this point, but like that authenticity piece, whether it's social media, whether it's dealing with your company, I mean, I think it's crazy important.
I tell everybody all the time, I'm like, I've never run a company this big, so I am going to make mistakes. I mean, it's not just in delivering a message around social issues. It's like, I am making mistakes all day, every day.
See,
and
the worst day of my life.
It's kind of funny because, I've never run a company of, we're almost 100 people now, and I'm learning, and you guys are learning, and we're going to make tons of mistakes, and being authentic about that and not acting like you've got all the right information. It takes the pressure off too.
This is a rabbit hole we're going down, but if you make mistakes and you're at the top and you make mistakes, then it makes all your people less afraid to make mistakes. And they know we don't have a culture of, I made a mistake, scapegoat. Who is it? Find that person, fire that person, or reprimand that person. It's okay. Let's find the mistake. Where did it happen? And then let's go back and fix that process or whatever. I think that's just a better way of going about it than the point and blame game, which creates a nasty culture. And I mean, that happens at times, but you gotta fight that. You gotta get that out of your culture quick.
How do y'all handle mistakes? Do y'all drop those down? Ray Dalio has an issues list. Of course, we all run EOS. How do y'all handle those mistakes? Do y'all try to make everybody drop them down to the issues list?
Yeah. I mean, in my one-to-ones, that's where we put them. I also have a little feedback. I don't put it in the Trello board that I share with our employee. I put it in my personal Trello board. I've got like to-do lists, and then I've got personnel feedback. And then I'll throw it up kind of right as we get into the meeting and talk about it one-to-one. It's one of those things, to Duke's point, anytime you're sitting right across the table from somebody and you're bringing up a mistake they might have made last week or the day before or something, they tend to get a little bit defensive. So the approach is, how do you tell somebody it's okay that you did this? It's not okay if you don't accept accountability and try to fix it and move forward. And I think we try to do a good job of relying on our values. One of them is courageous. And one of the sayings that we have is next play, kind of comes from coaching world. It's like, all right, you're going to fuck up. It's courageous actually to say I'd fucked up and I get back up on the horse, or I, instead of trotting back on defense, I sprint back on defense, right? Or sprint down on offense, whatever it is. And so I think you just kind of have to rely on the backbone of your company, because you never want to sit there and just berate somebody for a mistake for 45 minutes. What does that accomplish except for them going home and, ruins their day? It takes them off their game for the rest of the day. So try to acknowledge it, what happened, and how we're going to move forward is kind of how we try to approach it. I try to do that with clients too.
How do you get them to bring it up though? I mean, that's one of the things
you try to get them to bring it up.
You can,
I mean, don't you want people to acknowledge?
Celebrate that, like at a staff meeting, we made a mistake, but in the email chain, he jumped up and said, "Oh, I did this. This is where I went wrong. I'll fix it, whatever." Like, and so we celebrate that at the staff meeting. Like, we don't celebrate perfection. We celebrate Patrick made a mistake. He admitted it, so we were able to fix it quickly, and it won't happen again. Like, that's, clients appreciate that, and staff appreciate that. So I think to answer your question, you got to celebrate that, not the perfection, right? Mm-hmm. The image of perfection, because that's not real. I
forget the drop down thing from EOS. You're reminding me of it now, Matthew. Will you walk me through it?
Yeah. So at your level 10, anytime you have an issue or an idea, you drop it down onto the level 10 meeting. So next time we're talking, let's say I make a mistake or something bad happens. I don't know if I've even made a mistake yet. And we need to decide, hey, we need to process this issue that happened. And we're going to go in, and we always say, is it a people or a process issue? And we talk about, Ray Dalio talks about the machine, right? Like we're building a machine, and this is a great word picture, I think, for the team. We're building this machine that has some sort of predictable widget that it spits out. And for us, it's property management. Well, when the machine breaks, we need to know that the machine is broken, or we're just going to be spitting out bad property management widgets. And, you know, people that are on the front lines of that machine are the ones that know the best when it breaks. And if I have to point out when the machine is broken, generally it's been running for 2 weeks, spitting out widgets we can't use. And somebody else knows the first widget it comes across. And so not being afraid to kind of pull the lever, stop the machine, and fix the machine. I mean, that's the whole idea of dropping down issues. But a lot of times people think, well, you know, this is going to reflect poorly on me that I'm bringing up problems. And our point is, no. We want everybody, we're all in this thing for the same reason. We want everybody to be rowing in the same direction. And to do that, we want to make everybody's job easier by spitting out perfect property management. If we're not doing that, then you pointing that out, we've either pointed out that the machine's broken, which means it's a process issue, or we can point out that maybe we didn't train you really well. The only third do we come to the fact that, you know, it may be incompetence. But if it's incompetence, that we've at least gone through step 1 and step 2 and said, is the machine broken? Is it a process issue we need to fix? Step 2, is it a person problem in that we didn't train this person appropriately? And there's been many times that's been the problem. And then you only go to step 3 and say, hey, we might have a person problem. Like this person is not getting it.
Right. Well, yeah, that's what you need to have, the culture of let's figure out together and fix it together versus placing blame, because placing blame just causes people to hide the blame, you know, and it also starts, I think, at the top at your exec team. When something good happens, you need to share the success with others. When bad happens, take responsibility. I think that starts, it's contagious. And like if you're of a culture of like, another application of this is when you want to fire someone, right? And it's common HR practice. Okay, we're going to fire them. Let's form a paper trail so that when we fire them, we have this evidence we fired them. Like we're going to right to work state. So like technically we can fire anybody just because we want to. And so I push our HR team, like, look, like if you've got to do a PIP, like performance improvement plan, do it, right? But let's not use that as a tool to build this paper trail, because then people are going to fear that. They fear the PIP because the PIP leads to firing all the time. The PIP needs to lead to improvement, right? So that's that's the thing from the corporate world we try to get out of our system, is this like paper trail for firing. I know why people do it, because they're afraid of getting sued. But I tell people here, I'm not afraid of getting sued. We're not going to fire somebody for the wrong reasons. If someone wants to sue us, they can sue us, and we'll deal with that when it happens. But that's, I mean, the larger you get, the harder it is to do that. But I think it's important for what we're talking about here.
Go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to speak to the comments earlier about dropping things down to the issues list. A lot of times when one of our senior property managers, 24K team members, level 10 leaders basically, has an issue, they'll send out an email to the group to basically add it to the agenda for the next level 10 meeting. Typically, if it's something that's easily explainable and it's just that this person's team isn't handling it properly or isn't trained properly, if it's an easy answer, that just kind of gets shipped off to them. Hey, this is how you fix it. You know, if it's something where we're all kind of on different pages, that's when we'll standardize a process or a procedure or you know, kind of a guideline for that specific issue, and then try to roll it out to the whole team. And that's something that we really started to do more of this year through your guys' leadership and, you know, through our site, the kind of our on-site here at Atrium. But it's been really good for us because that manager gets it out of their head, like, hey, what did I do wrong? And then we get to address it collectively and find out if we're all on the same page.
Yeah, Ray Dalio, if you haven't downloaded his Principles app, he actually has some kind of little lessons that you can walk through. And one of them is essentially adding issues to the issues list, trying to remove the fear. I mean, at Bridgewater, it's a fireable offense if you don't drop the issue down. Like if you see something and you don't drop it into their issues list, and then one day someone else finds out that there was an issue, it is a fireable offense, because he believes so much in the idea of kind of weeding out all these small issues. But he actually takes someone, he'll take you through about a 15-minute program showing a team member that he had that didn't drop down an issue and talking about the importance of that. So if you haven't downloaded his Principles app, I mean, it's an incredible resource, and it may be a way that you can teach your team the importance. Hey, this is not something we just do at Atrium or at Dotson. This is something that other companies are doing, and they're being successful, and it's not weird to drop down issues.
Most of our people don't think we're weird.
I picture somebody dropping it down on the dance floor, like.
I can see Mikey dropping it down on the dance floor. I kind of feel like I've seen Mikey dropping it down on the dance floor.
Get your eagle on, Mike. Get your eagle on.
Drop it low.
When do you know? We've actually been having this internal conversation. How do you know when to fire somebody?
It's like porn. There's no definition, but you know it when you see it. No, that's a joke. That's a joke.
Like, I mean, you know, we all use Traction here, and that helps you define a process for it, right? Like, you do the reviews. If you don't do this, then you get 1 quarter to fix it, whatever, and that's fine. I think that we do that for the most part. I think we use the PIP process. Like, if you're doing something that makes you bad at your job, let's address it. Let's try to improve it. Give you a deadline if you don't fix it. But to me, it's part art, part science. I'm probably the wrong person to ask this. I fire people too slow, probably, and some people fire people too fast. I'm probably only too slow, but I'm getting better. I'm getting better at getting to the middle.
Yeah, that EOS process called GWC, get it, want it, capacity to do it. We found that very helpful, and it gives very obvious feedback to the person too. I mean, not just like if you fire them, but and we can talk about that, but you know, under the PIP process, if you want somebody to improve, it's important to give them actionable feedback to improve upon. Like, you did this, and this is how you can improve it. And that GWC is a great way to do that.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. I love
GWC.
Yeah. Probably not perfectly, but we do. Mikey, do you?
Yeah. So, I back in my Aimco days, we used to call it just will versus skill, but it's basically the same thing. You know, and if it's a skill issue, you can always teach that. If it's a will issue, if they just don't want it or aren't trying, there's nothing you can do. You know, a lot of times that type of issue is impossible to fix. So, but we'll give somebody way too many chances too, Duke, to that. Probably too slow to fire.
Well, it's probably because we all spend a ton of time really focusing in on the culture piece before hiring somebody, right? So you know you've got somebody who fits your culture, and you're like, God damn it, why can't they just do this? Or why aren't they just a little bit better at this? Or like, what did I do wrong, right, to make sure that they were, you know, they should have been successful if they're a culture fit. So I think those are the toughest when somebody is a culture fit, but they're just not a performer. I think the easiest ones are when somebody's not a culture fit, because they usually weed themselves out, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think if we had, let's just take that as a compliment. If we had worse cultures as companies, then it would be just super easy to fire people, right?
Yeah, Jim Collins actually has 2 questions you should ask yourself is before firing somebody, if that person came in and said, you know, I quit, would you secretly be a little bit excited that they quit? And then the second one is, you know, you've heard this. Would you excitedly rehire this person, right? Like, if you knew what you knew now, would you ever rehire this person? So those are Jim Collins's 2 questions.
Yeah.
How many people do you guys have now that you would fire?
What are their last names?
I can honestly say none. I don't think it's fair. Like, if you think you're going to fire somebody, to keep them around. We actually, our COO, Trey Griffin, and I were having this conversation. We were on our way down to our new market, which we hadn't announced yet. And he and I were having this dialogue going back and forth on, you know, when you know it's time to fire somebody, my thought is you need to go ahead and do it, because number one, it's fair to that person, right? Like, it's not fair to be a lame duck at an office. But it also sets the culture to me where people have the trust that they're not a lame duck. To me, if people find out that you're allowing people to hang around that are lame ducks, then it's just a slow erosion of the culture.
Denny, what's your favorite redneck phrase?
Thoroughbreds don't like to be around donkeys.
Thoroughbreds don't like to be running next to donkeys. That's
You're
right.
saying that's what you're saying, right? Like
Yeah.
your guy sitting here looks over there, and the guy next to him isn't doing his job, and that's being tolerated. So what should I do? You know, that's. No, I agree with that 100%. I think the traction process. I mean, now we do what's called the 9-box, which is a little more complicated, and that's another conversation for another day. I probably wouldn't entertain that until you're at least 100-ish employees, or at least 75 or so. But it's a good tool. But it just like Traction's tool, it just forces you to a decision. It doesn't allow you to procrastinate on that decision, and I think that's important because once you do it right, you weed out of all your 100 people, there's probably only 1 or 2 or 3 that are real issues, and you deal with them, and then maybe some more pop-ups at the top, or they don't. And if they don't, then you're okay. But if you're constantly evaluating it, you're constantly improving the caliber of person at your company.
I got a question for you guys, if you don't mind.
I
How
do.
many people do you personally do performance reviews with?
Me 4.
Mine is down to 3. I was actually doing like 10 or 12 until I hired Trey, and then Trey came in and started doing a bunch of those.
Tim, how many do you have?
7, but I'm trying to get rid of. I'm trying to not get rid of these people, but get these people off of my direct. Both of them are good performers.
Be clear in communication, Tim.
No,
If you are listening to this, we're not getting rid of you. We're just
Right.
Trying to get rid of
moving you
2.
No, I'm trying to get down to 5.
What about you, Mike?
Way too many, and it's
I was gonna say 42 probably.
We're paring that down. So that's part of our quarterly offsite, which is taking place next Monday. It's just reformulating that process. So that's why I asked.
How
Personally,
many did you say a number?
I didn't say a number, but it's way too many. I would
More
say-
than 15?
Yeah, I would say like 20.
Oh gosh.
How do you
Yeah,
even do that?
issue.
How do you have time to do? I mean, how often do you do it?
Quarterly, but it hasn't been consistent as it should be, and that's
Well, because you
why.
have 20 of them.
Yeah. Well, it's like overwhelming to just think, oh gosh, I got to go through this process. And then that's probably pretty draining too.
Yeah.
Yeah, glad you're addressing that issue.
Yeah.
Good authentic feedback here. You need to work
Thanks
on
for accepting it. Yeah, thanks for accepting the talk.
How often do y'all do it at Dotson?
quarterly. I really am bad at it. Like I would do, because I feel like we give feedback to each other all the time, and I like it more fluid, but I try to adhere to the process because I think company needs it as a whole. Even our last offsite, Tim, we examined, do we need to do it quarterly? Could we do it twice a year? Could we not do it? Like we talk about that. But for now we still do it quarterly.
Yeah. I think biannually is good. We do it quarterly. We're pretty consistent with it from the next layer down. But I think biannually is enough. If you're following Traction regularly and meeting with your people regularly and dropping down issues and giving them regular feedback, I don't see why you also need to do it quarterly.
I critique Tim daily, so I
Daily.
feedback daily.
Daily. Yeah.
So we
In
do
fact, when we get to the quarterly reviews, he just makes stuff up because he doesn't have anything left to complain about.
Yeah.
there you go. He has
After
new
we did the
issues.
review, Tim stopped and asked when he could give us, like me and Brian, like our review, and we still need to do that.
That's
Tim.
actually a question on our review. So we do ours monthly.
Hey,
You meet weekly.
He's only got. He said he's only got 3.
Well,
Yeah.
everybody in the organization gets a monthly 1-to-1.
so we do
Oh,
weekly
but see,
ones.
Yeah, we meet 1-to-1 almost weekly or bi-weekly.
Well, what's the difference between a 1-to-1 and a review?
Quarterly review is they're going through the whole.
Yeah.
So we do like the values plus minus GWC, and then stop, start, continue, and KPIs for everybody quarterly, and give like people concrete feedback. The week 1-to-1s is just like more tactical.
Right. Issues.
Y'all do those weekly.
Yeah.
Bi-weekly. If you're new, we
You
do
mean bi-monthly?
what?
Twice a
Bi-monthly?
month, whatever that means.
Twice a month.
Yeah.
Twice a month.
Bi-monthly.
Whatever that means.
I get confused with bi and semi.
I do too.
They
But
mean the same
but-
thing.
But
Or
I'm confused at what the difference is. So, I kind of see you have this like form you go through, but you have almost like a weekly or a bi-monthly check-in.
is bi-weekly and
Quarterly.
Bi-weekly is twice per week. Bi-monthly is twice per month.
I don't think that's right.
Semi-monthly is I'm confused too.
You guys listen to us.
All right.
So bi-weekly, but per the dictionary, is every 2 weeks or twice a week. So here's the worst part.
It's whatever you want it to be.
Everybody's right.
Oh, that stinks.
Glad we cleared that up.
Anyway,
Yep.
no. So we will meet. We'll do a one-on-one that we keep to. Try to keep it to 20 minutes. Usually stretches into 30. You get chastised heavily if it goes over that. But weekly meeting with your direct reports or your direct team or your pod, and then quarterly we'll sit down and we'll do an actual form where you've got all your KPIs. Did you hit them? Your rocks, and then to Duke's point, GWC, and then the values. And then what we do is start, stop, continue. So start doing something you're currently not doing. Usually stop annoying me, and then continue bathing regularly is what we kind of.
Which you didn't do today, by the way.
I have not showered yet today. That's true.
So you're gonna have to admit that in your next one-to-one.
If
So
we're sitting here talking about authenticity. You know how badly I wanted to deny that I haven't showered today.
We can tell you that. It's fine.
So I'm curious, do you ask for feedback in your one-to-one or your bi-monthly, biannual, bi-weekly, bi-daily meetings?
We encourage back and forth all the time.
So what kind of feedback do people that you manage give you?
I got feedback today, so I can answer this one.
Let's hear it.
Okay, let's go.
Did a review, and the employee said, your presence carries a lot of weight. And basically, I asked her, I'm like, what does that mean? What do you mean? Like, what should I be doing with that, presence that I'm not? And she just said, basically, be present more often in other locations. So like our Lake Mary office kind of gets neglected. And so for us, her feedback is be there more often so that you can have an impact. And so they know you're there and they're on their toes more often. So it's good.
That is good feedback.
I've gotten everything from stop being so self-deprecating to you canceled our one-on-ones twice this quarter. Don't do to.
Isn't that great though that they feel comfortable enough to give that? Mine's always around communication. Like they're like, we want to know more what's going on and we want you to tell us. And so we instituted things like Ask Anything Fridays, where we have 15 minutes where people will ask questions and they can ask me anything they want and I'll answer it if I can. As long as there's not an NDA somewhere that keeps me from doing that. But it's my feedback's like everybody just wants so much communication because it's fun. I mean, we're running growing organizations, and one of the part of the culture is people get excited about that. Like, what market are we going to? Are we going to acquire a business? And it's hard not to answer some of those when you can't. But people, the exciting thing is that when you have an engaged team, people want to know.
I think if you don't get feedback or you don't have a mechanism, like in the quarterly reviews, what's supposed to happen and why I asked Duke and Brian when I can do their review is you're supposed to give start, stop, continue and get start, stop, continue. So your employee gets a very formatted way of giving it back to you. So they're almost forced. And my people I make come with 2 things in each category. So you're getting at least 2 things and you're giving at least 2 things. And if you don't, it reflects poorly in your quarterly review. So I think if you're not getting that feedback, then you're probably doing yourself a disservice. Like to Duke's point, we give each other feedback nonstop. So it's not that big of a deal when we do it. But a lot of employees don't have the same relationships that I have with Duke, so they would feel intimidated. So I think it's important to formalize it too.
You're saying formalize the quarterly, or
I think
AKA the buy 6 monthly.
the 1,400 times a week that you get together with your employees. No, I think formalize it like we even have in our start, stop, continue, like the form, it gives you 3 examples in each category, like something about a process, something about their people communication or something like that. So if they know that there are categories that they can give you feedback on, they're less likely to come in and say, I couldn't figure out anything to ask you to stop, or I couldn't ask you to, I couldn't think of anything for you to continue.
Yeah, having people get prepared for those meetings is very important, especially those people that are kind of internal processors. They're going to need time to prepare, and the stress of that meeting they're not going to come up with the reality.
Right.
That's great feedback. That's why I'm here, to learn.
All right, guys, let's wrap it up with books we're reading. Tim, you want to start us off? Are you reading anything?
I went to Kiowa last week, so I was just working on my golf game. And
nice. What did you want to give us some feedback from that? I mean, how's the handicap? I mean, are you hitting them straight? The putter, are you making them within 6 feet?
I will, if I can tell you the God's honest truth, on the Ocean course on Saturday, I played the best golf any human has ever played in their life between holes 1 and 14. I was 5 up on my opponent, and then I got a little too drunk and lost the next 5 holes, and we have the match, and my team lost by a half point.
Duke you had a good golf weekend too at the member.
Great story. Yeah, Herman's member. I played the best round of my life on Saturday, but we lost. We lost by 1 point. My partner played really well too, and we lost by 1 point after 3 full days.
Yeah.
Mike, is it weird that their golf games are in tip-top shape? I mean, I haven't even played golf in years because I hadn't had time. And these guys are putting out the best golf of their life.
I fully expect to see Dodson Property Management on best places to work in America.
Well,
for sure.
We all just spend our free time differently. Like, I will not take off my shirt next time we're together and see who's in better shape, because I have not run in 3 months since I busted up my knee. But I've played plenty of golf.
Yeah.
And plus you're reading, you're running. I'm not doing those things. I'm just golfing. So I'm almost a +2.
Dude, what are you reading?
I started the book called Boone, about T. Boone Pickens. You guys know?
Oklahoma State guy.
Yeah, it's so weird. I know enough about him to be dangerous, but I don't know yet what I'm going to learn from it. So it's pretty cool. Like his first, have you ever seen the movie Wall Street? I've just read the intro, and T. Boone Pickens was kind of like Gordon Gekko in a way, where he was attacking fat corporations where they were spending all the money at the top and not helping the bottom line. So that he's championed himself as a savior. I'm going to wait till the end of the book and see if I still believe that, but we'll see.
And he passed last year, I think.
I think he did. Yeah, he gave all that money to Oklahoma State. Yeah.
All right, Mikey, what are you reading?
I'm reading Raising the Bar: The Life and Work of Gerald D. Hines.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, you'll like this book. It's a great book. He's a developer out of Houston. Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, I think. Anyway, long story short.
Pretty deep into that book, are we?
I actually am. I've only got an hour left. An hour and 1 minute. He is a total stud. He's developed all over the country now. I love his, kind of his start. He was an entrepreneur and tried to do everything himself. He grew. He eventually learned he had to give it all up, and he eventually passed the business on to his son. And his son's totally different than he is, but it's just a great story, awesome success story, and it's cool. I like the real estate and the aspect of the deal. Duke, if you haven't read it, dude, you would love this one. It's really good.
Raising the Bar. Check it out. Thank you.
Raising the Bar. Yep.
I thought it was going to be about Gregory Hines.
Yeah, no, different Hines family, but I would guess somewhat equally successful.
Yeah.
Or John Kerry's wife, Hines.
Another different Hines. Different spelling.
He's definitely out of Houston, but I don't know. The Dallas Fort Worth area comes up a million times in the book. That's why.
Sure.
So I'm reading, because I think Adam read this, your partner, Mike, Titan, The Life of John D. Rockefeller. I'm actually listening to it, so I'm not reading it. It's 35 hours long.
It's in there. I've got it in my library. I have not started that undertaking yet.
I am 5 hours and 20 minutes into it, and
That's
listening-
9 rounds of golf. That's 9 rounds of golf.
How many? Mine's only 23. I must have got the like.
You got the abridged version,
I
the
think so.
Cliff's Notes.
Let me know
It's
if
good.
I bought that book one time, but I haven't read it yet, so I got it.
It's a good start. I mean, I'm 5 hours into it, and he's just started his first oil company, so it is. It's really good. So, all right, everybody.
In all reality, I did just finish Pivot Point midweek last week, and that actually was a good book, even though Scott Abernathy told me about it.
Wait a minute. This is
Marco
tipping point.
only
and
listens
Malcolm
to
Gladwell?
recommendations anyway.
No, it's Pivot Point.
Oh, pivot point. Oh,
Pivot
okay.
Point. It was pretty good.
Was that just a slight dig at Scott, or was that a full-on like in-your-face dig?
I'll let you decide.
How about that?
What did you say, dude?
He deserves that. I said it's the dig that Scott deserves. Like, I love Scott. He deserves that. He knows that.
All right, this thing is falling apart fast. So before it does, we're gonna quit right here. Leave a review if you haven't already. Would love to know your feedback on this. And we are going to, if you're on video and you've made it this far, we are moving to Apple and Stitcher. So hopefully, if you want the audio version, we've had people asking us, when are y'all going to put out an audio version? That is coming. So they're in the process of getting the audio version out there now. And appreciate you guys.
Wolfpack.
Guys, can't wait to see you in November.
What's that? Oh yeah.
Can't wait to see you.